Gamers, today we're doing emergency tier list, but before that, DJ, hit it!
I finished with 80 bounty. 80! You shoved my arm at the start of the game. 80 bounty. I was like, do I leave this game? I finished with 80 bounty. 80!
Let's go!
You shoved my arm at the start of the game. 80 bounty. I was like, do I leave this game? I never had that happening in my life. It was crazy.
Let's go through chat!
80 bounty. 80 bounty. 80
Woo!
80 bounty. 80 bounty. 80 bounty. 80.
Let's go! Alright. Anyway, this is an intro for a video, by the way, so let's get into the video. Guys, I have summoned you here. Now, I know you're like, what the hell was that? That was from a video that's on my YouTube channel when Riddler was molding. Mr. 04, as we like to call him. And that's just a little clip. Now, we are making a song. Okay, I'm not making a song because I'm not talented for that. But there is a song in the making. I'm just going to say that. I'm just going to say that. But that is not why I summoned you here today. The reason I summoned you here today is because of an emergency. Emergency. Now, what is the emergency? A new tier list. This has never happened before, okay? We have done so many tier lists. I have never done 2 tier lists in 1 month. This is just crazy. I just can't believe this is happening. But I did 1 tier list at the start of April, and now it's almost end, and I felt like we gotta update immediately. So this is gonna be like late April, early May tier list. We had patch hitting earlier this month, and I made a tier list, even though the changes I thought weren't big, but with some meta developments, with the changes, also the Civ tier list has changed. So some things remain the same, some things have changed. Let's get started. Now I do want to say there are 5 lists here. And the last time we did this tier list, there were a couple of Civs in S tier, couple in A, I think 1 in B, 1 in C, 1 in D. And I think French was D tier. With that being said, French. C tier. Alright, so what's been happening? Well, since the tournament has ended, since Golden League 2 ended, a lot of people have been playing a lot more French. So they did receive a small buff in the way of the villagers produce a little bit faster from TCs. And one of the builds that's been happening, that came out, is where you go Chamber of Commerce and you actually go 2 TC. So you kind of, you don't send your traders immediately, but you let them kind of, I mean, if you can, sure. But if you're getting attacked, you just kind of wait. You get your second TC. And then as you're having a second TC and you have some army to defend it, obviously, then you release all the traders and you make a market in the corner. So not only you're in 2 TC and faster villager production, but you're also trading. Now, I think right now a lot of exploring is happening with French, and maybe it's going to even be a B tier, but I would say for now it's a C tier. It moved up a little bit. Spoilers, it is not the worst Civ anymore, but I do think it moved up a little bit. And I think for French, it has a lot of Civs that it struggles against pretty badly. I think it struggles against like French, it struggles against Delhi, Malians, and Ottomans. I would say it's even, maybe even favored against Mongols. I would say it's probably equal versus Rus early on, but later, or I don't even know if it's equal because of Gremlins, but later on Rus is favored. And then the 2 matchups that I feel like French is okay in, just not the trade thing, but just in general, is against English and against HRE. I think French is decent against, and I think it's always had a positive win rate against English since like the start of the game. So, and English is a very popular Civ. So like I said, there's some good things happening for French, but you know, it's still not up there. Obviously, trading is very risky stuff. And the way you play French, by the way, you don't overcommit on trade. Like, you don't make like 4 markets and, you know, trade. You just trade with like, maybe I'll make a guide for French. I haven't made one in a while, so maybe I'll make a guide for that. We'll see, but right now, you know, it's looking better. It's looking better, but it still sucks on hybrid maps or water maps. So maybe I'll make a French guide, actually. That'd be a good idea. Remind me after this video, guys, to put it down in my little thing, in my little notes. The next Civ we will be talking about is English. I'm going to put English in A tier. I think that one thing that we've learned through Golden League, and since Golden League, I've played a lot of ladder because I'm back on the ladder and stuff. I don't think that English is unstoppable. I think the biggest strength of English is it doesn't have any weaknesses. Which I know is funny, because it's like, it doesn't have any weaknesses, it's OP. It's in a way that I feel like there's no terrible matchups. And if you want to play a Civ, whether in a tournament or ladder, that's pretty important. Like, there's no matchup where I play English, except Delhi, okay? There's no matchup where I'm like, oh, you know, that's it. I guess I lose. So I feel like English is really good. It's probably one of the best Civs still. But I think that's due to mainly not having bad matchups, except Delhi. So, you know, 1 in 10, that's pretty good odds. But I do think it's playable on water maps. It's really good on hybrid maps, one of the best Civs on hybrid maps. It's playable on land maps, but I'm not like, oh my god, I'm playing against English, I guess I'm dead, kind of thing. But I would give it A tier for all those things combined. The next Civ we will be talking about is Ottoman. I think Ottoman is also A tier. I still think that Ottomans is probably one of the most unexplored Civs. Because no one is really going 2TC, attempting castle rushes. Like, everyone's still stuck on the feudal, you know, zug, where you just mess archers, sipahis, and you all in. It's not a good Civ on full water maps. It's a great Civ on hybrid maps, and it's a great Civ on land maps. Now, kind of same deal as with English. I don't feel that Ottoman has any bad matchups. I think it can work against any Civ, and I think that's part of what makes Ottoman strong. You know, if I play ladder, you can always queue up with Ottoman if you play all 10 Civs, because it's not like, oh, if I get this, I'm screwed. I agree. It's very straightforward. Like, I would also say that English at a high level, you do need to know transitions and when to transition and when to build farms. Ottoman is just very straightforward. You make archers, you get upgrades, and you go. It's, yeah. The next thing we'll be talking about is Abbasid. Abbasid went through some changes. Obviously, we have new wings. Now the military wing is currently being explored, but I don't think that Abbasid is that good in the current meta. Now, this might change because of the military wing. So I've seen some builds with military wing. Chad, remind me, I want to try that later on ladder, actually. There's some builds that I've seen from other high-level players and just like, you know, random players I meet on the ladder, where you go military wing into instant stables. So you kind of have the rock, paper, scissor at like 5 minutes already. The horseman, spearman, archer. So that's something that I want to explore. Maybe that's something that's viable and it's going to make Abbasid better. But the current meta at a high level is just make units and basically duel, right? You just fight constantly. And Abbasid is just not good for that. Because Abbasid either goes trade wing or they go eco wing. And if you do those things, you're defensive. So the meta is not very favored for you. Now, the funny thing is French can do the same thing, but they're better at being aggressive because of knights. And they don't need to invest as many resources into the trade because they get free traders once they research economic upgrades. But Abbasid, if it gets to castle, is a lot better than French or Imperial. So, yeah. Next civ we'll be talking about is China. Now, China, I think the last time I put it was B tier, but I'm gonna have to put it in A tier. It's one of the best civs in the water. Really good civ on hybrid maps, actually. It has some good matchups on hybrid maps as well. And it's one of the very, very few civs, if not the only civ, maybe together with HRE, where if you play on a hybrid map where there's like pools of water, you can actually open on the water, but then give it up and go into second TC and macro up from then on out. And HRE and China, I feel like, are the only civs that can do that and actually win the game. Even though you would preferably win the water, but it's possible. And then obviously on Superland maps, they were never good, but you know, since month and a half, 2 months ago, the Zuginu 1TC song build has been very popular, and I feel like China can basically fight other civs in feudal just as well, if not better than some civs. So I think it's A tier. Pretty good civ. The next civ we'll be talking about is Holy Roman Empire, and I'm just gonna put it in A tier. It's pretty much like China in regards that great water civ, it's great hybrid civ as well. And on land maps, it used to be like, oh, you don't want to play HRE land maps, but you know, I've played a lot of it. The 2C build is, I think, very strong. You can fight in feudal. It's good. I don't think HRE has any bad matchups except Malians, and I do think it does quite well against a lot of civs, especially against Delhi. So it used to have like some really bad matchups, like Mongol used to be a bad matchup for it, Rus used to be a bad matchup for it, French used to be a bad matchup, China used to be a bad matchup for it, but these days I feel like it's probably either, you know, slightly favored or at best or at worst equal with other civs. And obviously Malians is very, very good against HRE. Now let's talk about the best civ. The best civ without a doubt, and I feel like it's getting worse and worse, but the best civ in the game with no civ coming close, and that is the only reason why these civs are here, is Malians. This civ should not ever lose. The only civ that should beat Malians is Malians. Okay? That's it. The best counter to Malians is Malians. Which I'm going to be making a guide either later today, because we got some more content. Twitch guys, you know what it is. Or tomorrow. This civ is 100 billion% getting nerfed. Soon. I'm assuming in the next patch, which is the next, we might have a mini patch, or in the next patch when the new ladder season drops. Don't got any secret info. But Malian is it's just very strong. The Malian scouts are broken, the cows are broken, the gold pit, passive gold income is broken, the archers with poison arrows are not necessarily broken, but the fact that you have all this leading up to them makes them broken. So I just feel like they just don't have a weakness. Like, if you go spearmen early on, the Malian scouts kill the spearmen because they regen. They can outrun everything. You can go pro scouts. You don't need to move out on the map. With Malians at all, the only thing you have to protect is your gold. Your food is under TC with cows. Like, it just has no weaknesses. Yeah, the weakness is Malian late game, but if you don't win with Malians by Imperial, then you're playing Malians very wrong. I don't remember the last time I had Malian game where I went Imp, where it wasn't like a team game or something, right? Like I did a major screw up. Yeah. So the only reason, by the way, these civs are not bad. They're not like, ooh, they're not as good as before. The reason they're here is because Malian's there. Okay, if Malian was nerfed, all these civs would be a lot better. And a lot of these civs get completely destroyed by Malians. Again, I want to emphasize this because every time I make one of these videos, there's always comments like, oh, well, in Gold League, this Civ sucks. Yeah, in Gold League, a Civ sucks because people in Gold League suck, okay? I'm not making a Civ tier list for Gold League because I'm not a Gold League. I don't know what's good there. I'm making a Civ tier list what's good at like the top level and what the balance of the game is, however you want to phrase it. Yeah, Malian just has no weaknesses. It destroys almost every Civ. I would say there's 2 Civs that maybe 3 Civs that can sometimes win. And I would say those 3 Civs are maybe China, maybe Delhi. And then I would say the only okay matchup that can work out is Ottoman. And the only reason for that is Ottoman can basically hit right at the time his Malian is aging up to castle, and then you hit their gold. If you manage to prevent them from gathering gold, you can win. Other than that, every other matchup, good luck. It is very fucking rough once you meet a good Malian player. It's so bad that now at like top level, people have like they agree to not pick Malians. Or sometimes I've even had people leave or say like, oh, why'd you pick Malians and stuff like that? Because it's considered like, bruh, come on. So, yeah. Now, I'll probably make a guide for it. I do expect nerfs. I no idea what's going to get nerfed. But once it does get nerfed, I don't think it's going to be like unplayable. Or I hope so. I hope they don't nerf it to the point of unplayable. But if I make a guide and you guys play it and enjoy it, maybe once it gets nerfed, it's going to be more balanced. So, the goal is to get away people from English a little bit, okay? There's too many people playing English. If you're playing English on the ladder, shame on you. Learn a new Civ, okay? You're part of the problem. Like 30% of Civ picks are English. English, stop. Stop playing English. Some guy said English S tier, others D tier. We found the gold player. Tell me you're a gold player without telling me you're a gold player. Anyway, next Civ we will be talking about is the worst Civ right now, in my non-professional, professional opinion. Is Mongol. It breaks my heart. Now, I put them in B tier, I think, in the last Civ tier list, which was a few weeks ago. And then we checked out the win rates a few days ago on stream. And Mongol was kind of bottoming on a lot of leagues. And I was like, that's kind of weird. But I haven't played too much Mongols recently. Like in tournaments, it hasn't been my focus. I haven't played it too much, so I didn't think much about it. Like, there's 10 Civs, 10 matches per Civ, so it's hard to keep track of every Civ at all times, right? But I did play it here and there, but like I said, it wasn't my focus. So then, when I saw the win rates, when we made that video, I was like, they're not that bad. So I started playing them more on ladder, and I started playing them in the most recent tournaments. And I lost every game, okay? I lost every game. And I was like, do I suck with Mongols? So then I went through, I did this off of stream. I went through recent tournaments and I realized no one's playing Mongols. Like almost no one. Like before, Mongol used to be like in a best of 3, you pick Mongols, right? And this was like for the longest time. In a best of 5, for sure you pick Mongols. And then I looked through some of the results and I realized not many people are actually playing Mongols in general, even on the maps that are good for them. So then I opened AOE4 and then I looked through Civs and I was like, what is Mongols good against? And this was after me losing with Mongols. I think I lost 2-3 times in a recent tournament. I haven't won a single game with them. And then losing on the ladder. So I was like, okay, what is Mongols good against? And I was like, okay, Malian beats it. English beats it. Mongols beats English on hybrid maps, but that is very tournament specific. Ottoman craps on Mongols. China beats Mongols. HRE beats Mongols. Abbasid, I feel like Mongol can still do a tower rush, right? French, it's okay. I think it can go both ways. Rus destroys Mongols. Delhi destroys Mongols. So I was like, okay, so Mongol has 8 bad matchups and 7 bad matchups and 2 even matchups. You know what the issue is with that statement? Is that nobody plays French and Abbasid. Nobody plays it. Or at least they're very low played civs. So the only civs that Mongol is okay against are the civs that are not popular at all right now. So, yeah, it's rough. I think it's really rough for Mongols right now. And the trade obviously got nerfed. I didn't think it would be that big of a deal, and I don't think still the recent nerf trade is that big of a deal. But Mongol got double nerfed on trade because they nerfed the 10% gold, and they also nerfed their unique thing. You know, like when you have every 3, 5, 7 traders, you get bonuses. Now it's like 5, 10, 15, 20. So with all those things combined, and the meta being like feudal aggression, you make units and you just make units. That's not Mongol. Like Mongol, the meta that Mongol is good in is the 2TC meta, the more passive civs so you can bully them. But if you play against Ottomans, you don't bully Ottomans. The Ottomans will fucking destroy Mongol even in Dark Age. So I think just that I don't know, maybe I'm coping. Maybe it's not so that the balance, maybe just the meta is just not good for Mongols at all. But they probably need some kind of buff. I don't know what, but I think the biggest issue is their fighting in feudal sucks compared to the other civs. Like, I don't know which civ can Mongol beat in feudal in straight up fights, like assuming both civs stay in feudal. The only thing they got going for them is the Khan, right? The Khan arrow for the archers, and they have towers with movement speed, but you don't have towers everywhere. So now the last 2 civs, I think the last time I put Delhi S tier. Well, Delhi, I think I will try to order these civs in packs of 3. I think Delhi is a really good civ, and Delhi is, in my opinion, one of the most problematic civs in the game to balance. And the reason for that is Delhi is either broken against the civ or it sucks against the civ. I feel like there's no middle ground for Delhi, and I think that's a big problem. I don't know if they need a rework, but Delhi needs something. Like, it's not like, oh, they need to get buffed. It's not about getting buffed or nerfed. Something needs to be changed, because Delhi versus HRE is favored. Delhi versus China, it's the worst matchup in the game. China should always beat Delhi. Always, always, always. Then you have Delhi versus Ottoman, which I feel like is probably the most even matchup for Delhi. Probably the most even matchup. Delhi craps on French. Delhi craps on Mongol. I think Delhi loses to Abbasid, but I am not sure. I think Delhi loses to Abbasid. And then it's not favored against Malian. And then he destroys English. There's no, like I said, most civs, like I said earlier, English, other than Delhi, all matchups are even. Ottoman, same thing. Doesn't destroy any civ, but it's pretty good. And Delhi is just like, the scale of Delhi is just up and down. It's so scary to play it because you either get completely countered or you counter them most of the time. And I think that's the main problem with the civ. It doesn't mean that the civ is not good or that it's bad, but when it's good, it's really good. When it's bad, it's really bad. So that's the part I dislike about Delhi. And when you play it, for example, in tournaments, you have to be very careful when you pick it, because it's like doing fucking Minesweeper. You might just land on a mine and explode. Or you might be good to go. So yeah, and the last civ that I'll be talking about is Rus. Rus has seen not necessarily a lot of gameplay changes or meta changes. I think people are getting very into Rus, and people are enjoying Rus a lot more. I think people are using Kremlin a lot better than they used to. I think Kremlin is really strong. Even to the point where I think Kremlin should probably receive some kind of nerf. I think the gremlins are really good. The fact that it spawns with 2 gremlins the moment you build it is really strong. Because basically you can get your second TC without any units because you can just spawn 2 gremlins. But if the enemy is going to TC, you can spawn 2 gremlins and deny their TC. That's the issue, right? So they need to make army, but you don't because you got gremlins. And then they also are viable. They're super good on water maps. They're actually playable on hybrid maps, or even good on hybrid maps, depending which one it is. And then also on land maps, we're seeing people play them more and more because you can actually fight in feudal, because number 1, you have knights. Number 2, you have 20% wood income. So even though your archers are worse than like longbows or Ottoman archers or Delhi archers, you just have 20% more. And also you got gremlins. So yeah, we've seen a lot more Rus play, like I said, on land maps. So I think it's a pretty good Civ. And also I don't think it has bad matchups. I'm trying to think, but I don't think it has bad matchups. I mean, it has bad matchups in Malians, but who doesn't? This is how I would probably spread the Civs in A tier. I think English, Ottoman, I would say these Civs are equal strength overall, but some things they're better and some things they're worse in. I think English, Ottoman, and Rus are Civs that don't really have bad matchups. They don't really excel at any matchups, or if they do have a bad matchup or excel at a matchup, it's like one matchup. Then you have China and HRE that I would say are a bit different than these 3. These 2 can go to TC, they can rush castle, but they can also fight. So they don't fight as well as these 3 Civs in feudal, but they also have multiple options, if that makes sense. And their castle is a lot stronger, in my opinion, than these Civs. And then you have the third kind of part of A tier, which is Delhi, which can rush castle, they can play in castle, they can play in feudal, but the hard countering on both sides is kind of crazy in my opinion. And I would like something to be done with that. I don't know what. Maybe the problem is the sacred sites. For example, once you take sacred sites, your Civ becomes way better, but against some Civs you just can't take sacred sites. And maybe that's the issue. So maybe something like reducing the gold from sacred site from Delhi a little bit, but buffing them somewhere else would be good, so that they do get bonus for sacred sites, but if they don't get it, it's still okay to play them. Something like that would be cool, where it's like you have the option. Actually, that'd be a pretty good change now that I think about it. Like against China, it's extremely hard to get sacred sites because of Barbican, because of Zuginu. So maybe if Delhi had the option, like, okay, they can go sacred sites and get, you know, a lot of gold against some Civs, and that can be their playstyle, but maybe they should have another playstyle where it's not dependent on the sacred sites at all, and they can play maybe a bit more macro. I don't know. I'm just spitting ideas, right? Spitballing a little bit, but I do think that that's kind of the bad side of it. I think Delhi is a great Civ. It's fun Civ, but it can be a very good or very bad experience. And that's it. That's the emergency. Some people will call it urgent, but those people got no clue what they're talking about. It's emergency, baby. So I wanted to do this update before May arrives. I don't know if there's going to be any patches in May, but probably mid to late May, if something changes, which I feel like the meta is pretty settled right now. I'm not expecting too many crazy things happening. Like the only thing that I would maybe expect to go up and down, maybe Abbasid military wing does something with the Civ, and maybe the French becomes a little bit better if players practice it more. But other than that, I feel like this is pretty stable right now. So there it is. If you're watching this on YouTube, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Check me out on Twitch. I'm probably live right now. For the Twitch gamers, let's keep going.